Hello everybody, welcome back. We are on the final episode now of weapon reviews for The Last of Us. Today we are going to be looking at the craftable weapons and items and such. So let's get into this. Let's start with the modded 2x4, which is kind of a rare craftable item. But I'll tell you what right now, anytime you have the ability to craft a modded 2x4, do it instantly. Do it as fast as you can because the 2x4 is great to have on you as a backup weapon for when you're getting into, fist fights or whatever, because it instantly gives you a one-hit kill. It gives you the upper hand, no pun intended, on the enemy. And the great thing about the modded 2x4 is that it transfers over even if you die. Obviously, that's not true for survivors mode, but for supply raid, like if you pick up a 2x4 and you die, you lose it. However, if you craft that into a modded 2x4, you get to keep that weapon even if you die. So that's why I always recommend crafting it, because it'll transfer over through your deaths and you'll get a lot more use out of not only a modded 2x4, but you'll get more use out of the 2x4 even after you've used the one-hit kill of it. And keep in mind, you can mod a 2x4 multiple times, so long as you have the materials to craft it into a modded 2x4. You can do it as many times as you want. It has like infinite uses in that sense. So the modded 2x4 absolutely comes recommended. Things I like about it is it's a one-hit kill. You can use it many times, assuming you have the materials required to craft it. And it's got a decent range or thrust. Actually, when we tested the range and the thrust of it, if you're within about 6 feet of your enemy, you'll thrust at them with it. If you're outside of that radius, you won't be able to thrust at them. But, whatever. It's a melee weapon. I mean, what did you expect? So let's move on to the Shiv now. The Shiv requires the same supplies as the modded 2x4, which is a blade and a binding. Now, anybody who's ever been shivved, which is pretty much everybody, will know how much it hurts to be shivved. It's like the most humiliating and painful death you can have in the game. And that's really the best thing about using the Shiv as well, is that it's the most satisfying way to kill enemies in the game. Like, that's literally my favorite part of the Shiv. Obviously, the benefits of the Shiv is it's great as kind of a stealth thing if you're a stealthy kind of player, and you have the covert training perk on. This thing can be very useful if you're good at sneaking up behind enemies and stuff. Then this thing is going to be really helpful for you, and I definitely recommend crafting it. I don't recommend crafting it over a modded 2x4 because again they require the same supplies. I don't think it's quite as flexible and useful as the 2x4 modded. But it is worth crafting in certain scenarios, and especially if you're going to use it in combination with a smoke bomb. If you don't know this already, if you hit somebody with a smoke bomb, it will stun them, and you can run up to them from any direction. It doesn't have to be from behind them, and stab them as long as they're stunned with the smoke bomb. So the question, should I craft a Shiv if I'm able to, really is very dependent on on a lot of factors. It's dependent on whether you can also craft a modded 2x4. It's also dependent on whether you've got a smoke bomb available or whether you can craft a smoke bomb. And also on your play style. So I'm going to say the Shiv is worth considering as far as crafting. No, there's no doubt that when you can use this thing, it's effective. It's a one-hit kill, obviously, so there's no doubt about that. It's just that I don't think the situation arises often enough to Shiv somebody that it's worth crafting ahead of time. In addition to the fact that if you have the covert training perk on, you automatically get a Shiv no matter what. So like that, it's, the Shiv is almost not recommended. It's almost not recommended. It's not worth crafting all the time. It's not always worth having one on you. But for certain maps, certain play styles, certain situations, it is definitely very useful. Now let's go on to the nail bomb. This is probably the most versatile craftable item in the whole game, for a lot of reasons. First, let's talk about what it requires to craft a nail bomb. It requires a blade, an explosive, and a sugar. These resources are pretty common. It's not difficult to come by these resources. And typically by the first or second supply box you go to, you'll be able to craft a nail bomb. But the really great thing about the nail bomb is how versatile it is. You can set it as a trap by just pressing R1 as opposed to holding L1 and throwing it. Of course, that's another option. You can throw it long distances and blow up your enemies. It's a one hit kill as long as it's kind of within like 3 or 4 feet of your enemy. At longer ranges, it does like 1 or 2 bars of health. We tested it kind of extensively. It was hard to tell exactly at what point it stops hitting your enemies, but it's kind of like self-explanatory. I think just use your own judgment and you should be fine with it. But it's definitely powerful. As a trap, we tried all sorts of different things, like as far as how far you have to be before you trigger it as like a mine, and it's like 2 or 3 feet before it triggers. If the player is aware that the bomb is there and they hear it click and they start running away, they can escape it completely. But it's difficult, I would say, and certainly these things catch me off guard very often, especially when someone places it right on a supply box. That is a dick move, but damn is it effective. So anyway, the nail bomb definitely comes recommended. There's honestly not a whole lot to talk about it with. Like, it's just really effective. You can set it as a trap, you can throw it as a grenade. It's really effective in all situations. I absolutely recommend it. Now let's go on to the Molotov. Probably the second most frustrating thing in the game to be killed by, right behind the Shiv. The Molotov costs a rag, a binding, and alcohol. Now, anybody who's played The Last of Us multiplayer will know that getting these three supplies isn't the most common thing. And if you look at when you're using the Molotov cocktails, when you're aiming and you see that radius of that area of effect display that shows where it's going to impact, uh, it's actually lying to you. The area of effect on the Molotov is actually better than what they're saying it is. Even if an enemy is outside of that green circle, there's a good chance that the Molotov can still hit them. And really, the only time the Molotov isn't a one hit kill is if your enemy is like 3 feet outside the radius of the explosion. Like, they have to be fairly far away for it to not kill them, and even then, it'll still damage them. And even if they're really far away, I've seen people get killed by the Molotov like even a few like 10 feet away. Like it's a really weird thing. One really cool feature that the Molotov has is that just by pressing R1, you can just lob it, so you can quickly use it as well. Like, aiming it takes some time, but if you just tap R1, it'll go pretty much right where you're aiming, and you can pretty easily kill people with that by hitting a wall near them or whatever. The only downside to the Molotov that I've been able to find is that it's very easy for this thing to backfire on you. If you're not careful about when you use it or where you use it, it's very easy for you to take damage upon throwing this thing, especially if it hits the enemy that's like right in front of you or whatever. It's just very easy to kill yourself with this thing. So you have to be careful, but it definitely comes recommended. It's rare to come by the supplies to craft a Molotov, or kind of rare anyway. But anytime you do have the supplies, I definitely recommend crafting this thing. It's like a one hit kill most of the time. Now let's go on to the smoke bomb. Now this is interesting. So, as I said, smoke bomb is good when used in combination with the Shiv. But the smoke bomb it has a lot more uses than you might think. The crazy thing about the smoke bomb in this game, unlike other games, is that the smoke actually sticks around for a long time. I haven't actually counted, but it seems to me like it lasts maybe 15 or 20 seconds before it goes away. Maybe even longer. Like, it lasts a long time. And on certain maps, like say the dam for instance, this can be a really effective tool at getting your team to safety. If you're getting in a firefight on that dam bridge with some enemies, and you need to get away because you're low on health or whatever, throwing smoke is actually like really effective because they can't mark you, they can't see you, and by running into the smoke, they're kind of taking a risk. Like, I don't see people running into smoke very often. Like, it's just not something I see happen. And of course, you can stun people with the smoke bomb, and then you can go up and shiv them, or you can shoot them, or whatever. Basically, they are paralyzed for 3 seconds. And the great thing about the smoke bomb is that it's cheap. It only costs an explosive and sugar. Now, there is one major downside to the smoke bomb, which is that it's very easy to stun yourself with this thing. And it's very tempting if you have a shiv and a smoke bomb to try to go in for that stun and then shiv move that you can pull off. but like 4 out of 10 times I try that, I end up stunning myself and getting killed. Like it's a very risky tactic to try and pull. So I would really warn you guys to be careful about using it. The smoke bomb is definitely very effective in certain ways, and it's cheap. So there's really no reason not to recommend the smoke bomb. It's almost questionable whether you should craft this thing because maybe those supplies could go to a nail bomb instead. But it's cheap enough, and explosives and sugar are very common to come by in supply boxes. So even if you craft one, it's not going to be long before you get those supplies again. So I definitely recommend it. Now let's go on to the medkit, and this is the only craftable item in the game that I do not recommend at all, and here's why. The medkit costs a rag and alcohol. If you notice, those are the same supplies needed for a Molotov, although with the Molotov you also need a binding as well. But I don't recommend crafting a medkit unless you're in dire need of it and there's no medkits nearby. Like if you're stuck in a house and there's no medkits nearby and you're low on health and you need to heal up because otherwise they're going to come in and kill you or whatever the situation, then maybe craft it. Like only craft it if you really absolutely have to. But other than that, medkits are very easy to come by throughout the maps, and as long as you pay attention to where they are, you can memorize their locations and you can go pick up like 2 or 3 of them before you even encounter anybody in the match. Like literally on Lakeside, I can usually find 2 or 3 of them before I even run into an enemy. So they are extremely easy to come by, and there's no reason for you to not be stocked up on medkits by the time you need one. So I don't recommend crafting a medkit unless you absolutely have to. They're very easy to find on the map, and there's really no reason you should have to craft one ever. So, guys, thank you for watching. That does it for the weapon reviews in The Last of Us. My throat is about to. It feels like it feels like Death Valley. It feels like a desert because I literally just recorded episodes 3 through 5, which has been about 45 minutes of straight talking. So, guys, thank you for watching. Please click like for my barren desert of a throat. I will talk to you guys in the comments. Let me know what kind of videos you want to see now from The Last of Us now that I've finished this series. Again, I'm considering doing a live stream, and I'm considering doing this new series called Last Man Standing. We'll see where it all goes, but give me ideas if you have them, and I will talk to you guys in the comments. Thanks for watching.